Welcome to our travel seminar on this fine morning. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy days to be here with us. We've got over 20 years experience working with clients such as Eurostar, Haven, Thomas Cook, Norway Tourist Board, Warner Leisure Hotels and London Zoo, to name a few. We live in a world where everything we do is changing at an ever increasing pace, and those companies that can keep up and adapt their business models will thrive in this new world. More people are spending more time online and interacting in new and unimaginable ways.
Right, everything you know about travel is wrong. Well, that's in the same sense as everything you know that Heathrow Airport tells you about Heathrow Airport being full is wrong. Heathrow Airport is by no means full, but it suits Heathrow Airport to say at certain times, like when it snows, that Heathrow Airport is full. It's not. It's the same as when EasyJet boarding passes say the gate will close half an hour before departure. No, the gate might open half an hour before departure, but it probably won't. And it's the same as, let's be honest, when the Independent says we've got a complete guide to Andalusia. It's not a complete guide to Andalusia. Let's just have a look at the economic background that you are all too aware of. Absolutely miserable at the moment. This is how the new petrol prices, gas prices are being received in the USA. It's pretty bleak out there, as you would know better than anybody. Airfares, of course, going up. The one thing is, why aren't we all in the teeth whitening business? Look at that, £295 an hour.
2012 was a really, really odd year for British tourism. We always knew it was going to be, and so it proved. And it was because of two things really. One, the Olympic Games and the Paralympic Games, and two, the weather. The weather had a greater economic impact on the visitor economy last year than the Olympics did. If you want to see how a museum or a gallery has done really, really well, look at the story of the V&A over the last 10 years. Here is an institution, Gothic, Prince Albert, Victorian, largely regarded 10 years ago as a place with loads of statues and quite a lot of Mallorca plates. Now, David Bowie and Hollywood glamour. What has happened in that last 10 years? We know what's happened. Big cultural changes inside, but a really savvy understanding of how to get your institution really getting in tune with visitor expectations, and have done it brilliantly through marketing. People love standing on the spot where history was created and feeling a physical umbilical link to things that have gone before them. And therefore, if you have had things that have gone on in your restaurants or your bars or your hotels or whatever, curate it, tell people about it. When we ask people what they love about going to restaurants and hotels and visitor attractions, etc., etc., the thing that they say is, we came because of what you've got, your curatorial collection, but we're coming back because of who you employ. A great example of getting it right and getting that welcome right was the London Games Makers last year, who through their own efforts largely were responsible for, Britain subscribes to something called the Anhalt Nation Brands Index, and it's a really good assessment of what countries are good at what. We've always been good as the UK at a lot of things, but what we've always been hopeless at is welcome. But last year, our ranking, our improvement levels went up 3 points, which is significant, went up 3 points. We are now regarded as a much more welcoming, engaging, friendly, casual, relaxed country than we were a year ago, entirely down to the Olympics and Paralympics, and principally those games makers and volunteers. Tourism is the third largest export industry in the UK. It creates more jobs, more sustainably, at all skill levels, in all parts of the country, than any other sector. And last year, even in the face of an austerity scenario, tourism created 1 in 3 of all new jobs.
All the new insight from the past 10 years or so has pointed towards the fact that we make emotional, instinctive decisions rather than purely rational ones. The amygdala and the emotional limbic system actually processes all the information before we even have a chance to think about it. So the old logic used to be that we'd think about stuff and do it. In fact, we feel first and then do our thinking. And here's, in a nutshell, why. It's because we need to decide pretty quickly if this is a snake in the grass or whether it's a stick. Our thinking brain can't distinguish quickly enough, and we would die from snake bites. The emotional brain acts very, very quickly and will have us leap away, because we'd rather do that and find out it's a stick than think about it, process it as we're being bitten. So it's a survival mechanism. At moments of emotional arousal, so when you're emotionally aroused, you create more vivid memories. If you think about when you went on holiday when you were 17, emotionally aroused, hormones all over the place, this is the first time I'm ever going to do it, I bet you can remember where you went, who you were with, what the music was like, what your bedroom was like. The details are rich and vivid. I remember where I went on holiday 2 years ago, I haven't got a clue.
Paid owned earned cuts across very many areas. You know, in social, it's all three of those things. In retail, it's all three of those things. In search, it's all three of those things. So it forces you to think about activities, not channels necessarily, and how they start to connect together. Often, the way this has been applied is you put your channels into buckets and you go, we've covered off paid owned earned media, but actually you need to think of it as a system. You know, your paid media has a dramatic effect on your earned media. The stories that you tell to the world start to manifest themselves in different ways. And of course your owned media then have a relationship on how your paid media might work in the digital space. And all this you should be able to quantify in some way what those areas drive back to the business. This system works very differently for different categories and for individual brands. And this is a very rudimentary example, but I think, you know, we've all, in the way that paid owned earned has been presented a lot and used a lot, we all assume that these areas are equal. In fact, they're not. If you're an FMCG brand, you know, the paid territory and, you know, broadcast advertising is still incredibly important. And earned possibly less so, and it's been difficult to quantify the impact that earned has. If you're in the travel business, you'll probably find, and again this will depend on where you are and what brand you are, that your system is a lot more balanced, that, you know, your own properties may be the most important thing that you have.
Even in the final session, users are switching between lots and lots of different websites. So there's a real opportunity as an advertiser, as a brand, to pick up a conversion, pick up a booking when maybe you hadn't been on the consideration list earlier on in the customer journey, but equally there's a risk that if you haven't quite got your website experience right, then you can equally very easily lose that customer at the last minute. So of 100 visitors that come to the websites of travel and transport companies, over 98 disappear again without making a sale. I don't want, you know, people to think that conversion marketing, conversion optimization is just the domain of the geeks and the web guys. Sadly, it still often is within organisations, that responsibility for marketing and PR and comms is with the brand and the marketing team, and responsibility for converting those lookers into bookers is with the web team, with the tech guys. Okay, because this really should be marketing stuff, because it's about customer experience. The average time that people take to decide whether they're going to pursue with a website or not, whether they're going to continue browsing, is less than 3 seconds. People are using smartphones when they've got 5 minutes spare, or they're in the bedroom and the laptop's downstairs and they can't be bothered to go and get it, and they're starting these research journeys on a mobile device. If you do have a mobile optimized web experience, then your customers are 51% more likely to buy. They're going to enjoy an 85% increase in engagement levels, and worryingly, sort of 40% of consumers say that they would visit a competitor's site if they had a poor mobile experience. Having a mobile optimized website is really table stakes these days. It isn't really getting you ahead. If we don't have a mobile optimized website, then you really are falling behind.